morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, April 10th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by Alex Gleitman. Alex, the opening regional in Cleveland was held yesterday. Let's talk about some of Ohio State's top targets that were there. Let's start with offensive tackle Jackson Carman, number one offensive tackle in the country, five-star recruit. I know he's saying Clemson's the leader. Just cut through the BS here. What's the latest with Jackson Carman?
Yeah, I mean, listen, yesterday he came out and he almost took a step back from what he said the previous week. And he said, oh, well, Clemson's 1A, Ohio State's 1B. So he's already retreading on the Clemson leads type of deal. And I said since he came out with the Clemson thing, I spoke to Jack shortly after that. And, I think that, Ohio State is the leader. I think that he realized maybe he gave away a little too much, a little too early, as far as who was leading and how things were going to go down. But I think he's kind of now playing the game a little bit, playing the media a little bit. I think he is going to take some visits. I think a decision will come late. He says it's going to be December after he takes all 5 official visits. Let's see if he sticks to that. I could certainly see it, but I do think Ohio State's going to be his decision when that time comes.
So, I mean, and I've always said I don't have a problem with kids having fun, and everybody assumed he was going to go to Ohio State. And let's say he knows he's going to go to Ohio State, and he's having a little fun with the process right now, and he's just kind of throwing people off the scent. And I'm sure he likes Clemson, but let's just say deep down he knows he's going to Ohio State right now, and he's just having fun with the process. Do you have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem with it as long as he's being honest with Ohio State if that's where he's going to go, and not jerking them around or anything like that. I think that he's, as you said, this only comes along once for a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, this opportunity. And, to take all 5 official visits, I don't think you want to do that. I'd rather him do what he's doing now and kind of play the game a little bit, tell Ohio State coaches on the down low, they're still in a good spot and whatever, and go on those visits uncommitted rather than be a committed prospect and go on those visits and keep everyone worried. So I think you'd rather go on, if you want to go on visits as an uncommitted prospect, not a committed prospect. That's just my take. So, I don't really have much of a problem with it. I think Ohio State knows where they stand. I think, Jackson's, it's his process. He can handle it the way he wants, and I don't think he's doing anything all that wrong right now.
I agree with you. I don't have a problem with it at all. Have fun, young man. Again, you made the very important caveat. As long as he's being honest to Ohio State, having fun with it, you get one chance to do this, and, I don't have a problem with it at all. Another young man that was at the opening regional in Cleveland yesterday, outside linebacker Dallas Gant. I think a lot of people feel like he's trending toward Notre Dame. What's the latest with Dallas Gant in your opinion, Alex?
Yeah, it's a tough one to call, and from everything I've gathered, I mean, he's the type of kid who you would normally see go to Notre Dame. I mean, that the Jesuit school up in Toledo, St. John's, and education is still important to him, and not that Ohio State education is bad, but Notre Dame is definitely a step above Ohio State as far as a complete academic institution. There's no doubt about that. That private school, smaller feel, and the religious aspect, he said, is attractive to him. The one thing that Notre Dame doesn't have is the stability and kind of the as far as the coaching staff goes. And I think that's the key here. And I think also the fact that, Ohio State is going to be in a better position to win championships than Notre Dame. Notre Dame fans may not want to hear that, but that's the truth. Notre Dame's still putting plenty of guys in the NFL. You can't, Jalen Smith, would have been a top 5 pick if he didn't get hurt last year. He's still an early second-round pick, which is incredible. But Ohio State right now is being looked at as NFL factory number 2 behind Alabama. And I think if Luke Fickell was still at Ohio State, I think this one would have been done and over with. And that's no fault to Ohio State. The guy went and got himself a head coaching job. I think Notre Dame's crept into it not a little bit, certainly a lot. Michigan's crept into it a little bit. They're probably a distant number 3, though, I'd say right now. And I think I'm still leaning toward Ohio State being the pick for Dallas. I think that in the end, kind of Brian Kelly's the uncertainty of if he'll even be the head coach next season is too much to overcome for Notre Dame. I think Ohio State's going to land Dallas Gant.
And another 2018 prospect that was at the regional in Cleveland, Tyreek Smith, defensive end. What's the latest with Tyreek Smith, and do you think he'll be a Buckeye?
Yeah, this one's a little tougher because Tyreek's actually originally from California, and they lived there, I think, till he was in like seventh or eighth grade. They moved to Cleveland. I believe it's his mother's father or his father's father to come and take care of them. So, he doesn't have that like inherent Ohio State, like I need to be a Buckeye. I'm from Cleveland. Like that's my dream. So I think he's going to take his time with the process. I know right now Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Penn State are kind of the three standing out. I'd say Ohio State and Penn State a little bit over Notre Dame. I know he's going to go visit USC, UCLA. I think some of the other schools out west kind of take the home routes. But I think he's going to stay in the Midwest. I think it's either going to be Ohio State or Penn State as of now. And I think you'd have to give Ohio State the edge. That's where my crystal ball is. I think they're doing a great job in the relationship standpoint. And I actually think Tyreek Smith, I think he can end up being the number. I think Jackson Carman's got to stay the number one player in their class. And this is no disrespect to Jalen Gill, but I think Tyreek Smith, when it's all said and done, could be the number 2 player in Ohio in this cycle.
Wow. That's interesting. Offensive guard Frederick Scruggs was at the opening regional. Same question I asked you with Tyreek Smith. What's the latest with Scruggs, and do you think he'll be a Buckeye?
Yeah, this is Ohio State and Penn State. At one point in the fall, it looked like it was definitely Ohio State. Penn State certainly creeped back into the mix, but Juice Scruggs was on campus last weekend, and Ohio State hit it out of the park with him again. Sources close. He doesn't talk much. I know Bill's going to have an update with him on the site this week. But, in talking to sources close to Ohio State and even some at Penn State, they feel Ohio State has a little bit of an edge right now over the Nittany Lions.
And Blue Smith, wide receiver from Wayne, sounds like he's going to go to Kentucky. Is Ohio State, is there really, I know anything can happen in recruiting, but is there really a legitimate chance he's going to end up at Ohio State at this point?
As of now, I'd say he doesn't end up at Ohio State. I just think, if you're looking at him as a receiver, which is where he wants to play at college, I think that, there's just some guys they maybe have higher on the board than him right now. I know they're recruiting him, and they continue to build a good relationship, and you never know what's going to happen, especially with in-state guys. But there's only a couple wide receiver spots, and I think maybe they have a couple other guys higher. Now, that said, he's a tremendous athlete. He's a guy who probably could play multiple positions. Some people are saying maybe tight end, he'll outgrow wide receiver. I don't know if that will be the case, but if you look at him as a tight end, maybe after Ohio State, hopefully for their sake, Lance, Jeremy Ruckert, they're going to probably look to add another tight end in the class. If Blue Smith is willing to say, okay, I want to stay at wide receiver, please give me that shot first, but if not, I'm willing to give tight end a shot, then maybe he moves up the board a bunch. But, he's just a versatile player. He's a great kid, comes from a great family. I just don't see it happening right now between him and Ohio State, but he's coming for the spring game this weekend. I think that's going to be a big visit for both sides. I think there's going to be a hard conversation there where both sides have to put kind of everything on the table, and I think a lot more will be known as far as where things are at in that situation. But right now, my crystal ball is on Kentucky. I think that's probably the most likely landing spot as of this time.
The spring game is obviously this Saturday. Is anyone on commit watch this week? And let's even extend it into next week, because a lot of times, as you know, guys might not commit at the spring game, and they might commit the next day or the 2 days after. So let's take this week and next week. Anybody on commit watch, in your opinion, Alex?
Oh man, this is tough. I mean, we got to see who ends up showing up and things of that nature. I mean, if he gets the green light, you could have a guy like Chris Oates. If he comes up, he could commit. I think Jake Cradle is one to watch. If he comes back for the spring game, like he's told me he might. He's a guy who Ohio State liked a lot. They didn't have to offer. They could have waited a little bit more till they evaluated him at their school. They like him a lot. They think he's extremely underranked right now, both in 24/7 Sports and the Composite. And they think he could be their next guard center of the future, kind of similar to Pat Elflein a little bit, or a Billy Price, if you will. So I think he could be the next domino to fall, and I think if he makes it back to Columbus, it's going to happen this weekend.
Let's switch gears and talk some spring football with the Buckeyes. Let's start with backup quarterback. Everybody loves talking about Joe Burrow versus Dwayne Haskins. If you had to pick right now, who do you think is going to be the backup quarterback for the Buckeyes? Do you think it's going to be Burrow or Haskins?
I think it's going to be Joe Burrow. I like the kid a lot. I think he's outside of like, the skills on the field, being able to run the option and throw the football accurately and effectively, I think the kid just has so many intangibles. He's got a high football IQ. He's the son of a high level, his father's the defensive coordinator of Ohio University, and he's been around the game a long time. So he's got a high football IQ that he grew up with. He's a tough kid. He's a leader. I got to see him firsthand for a week at the Semper Fidelis All-American Bowl when he was a high school senior, and that's when he sold me. I mean, I know he had a tremendous senior year, but that's when he sold me, when I got to see him on and off the field just doing his thing. And I think Dwayne Haskins is a tremendous talent too, but I think this competition is going to go through the season, basically. They're going to be battling all season long. I think that's the way Ohio State keeps them around for at least this year, as they're going to battle for the starting job in 2018. But I think Burrow, if J.T. Barrett, God forbid, went down for whatever reason, I think Joe Burrow would be the guy to go into the game first. He has a little bit more experience under his belt, and I think he's just a little bit ahead as far as, being the complete package at quarterback right now.
Some good news by the way, I agree with you. I think it's going to be Burrow, although this is a great problem to have. If Dwayne Haskins is your third-string quarterback, it's almost like mind-boggling, and not just when he's a true freshman. Now as a redshirt freshman, second year in the program, a guy with that type of arm talent, if he's going to be your third-string quarterback, it's stunning. But I do think it's going to be Joe Burrow. Really good news for the Buckeyes here. There's some young defensive tackles maybe people hadn't written off, but certainly maybe they weren't on the front burner coming into spring. Specifically, Jayshon Cornell, and maybe some people had written him off, and Malik Barrow. I think some people maybe were still optimistic about him since he was just a true freshman last year, redshirt, and now he's a redshirt freshman. Cornell's a year older. So Cornell now is a third-year sophomore, Barrow as a redshirt freshman. They're really coming on this spring. Again, a lot of times guys come on in spring and then they disappear in the fall. I get that, but I have a feeling these guys, I feel like they're going to be able to at least contribute if they stay healthy. Just your thoughts on Jayshon Cornell and Malik Barrow coming on for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to see Cornell kind of coming into his own. He was obviously – it's actually funny. When he first burst onto the scene, he was one of the top – I think he might have been the number one player in his class at the time, but he was looked at as like an outside linebacker, defensive end hybrid. And as he got older, as he got bigger, he then became a weak side end, then he became a strong side end, and now he finally has moved inside the defensive tackle at Ohio State. And I think people – underrate how difficult it is to, even though it's still the defensive line, it's not easy to learn a new position and the new techniques and the new how you line up and the stances and the hand placement and just all the nuances that go into that position. And Jayshon battled some injuries earlier in his career, and so it's great to see him out there performing great. And Malik Barrow, another guy who overcame an injury his senior in high school. He was close to converting that redshirt last year. There was just no reason to. The problem, I think, is where are they going to see snaps? I mean, Mike Hill potentially could be facing a suspension, so maybe that's an opportunity early in the year. But, you have B.B. Landers, you have Draymond Jones, you have Tracy Sprinkle, you have Devon Hamilton, and those are just four guys at a minimum right there. Not to mention you could have Nick Bosa moving inside, you could have Jalen Holmes moving inside, et cetera, et cetera. So I think just getting those guys on the field is going to be a challenge, but hopefully they get them mixed into the rotation, and there's an opportunity for them to flash, even if it's in limited reps, and they set themselves up, to be big-time players, the next season.
Great stuff, as always, from Alex Gleitman. Thank you very much, Alex, and thanks to all the listeners for tuning into the show. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.